All right, we're on the Gateway Pundit. Rhino Dan Crenshaw calls 20 Republicans who refuse to vote for McCarthy terrorists. During an interview, Crenshaw referred to the 20 Republicans challenging the establishment as terrorists. Crenshaw, it's almost like they're being paid by Democrats to force us into a deal with Democrats. Like, I don't know what else to think at this point. Then there's Guy Benson chimes in. One name that gets tossed around a lot is Steve Scalise, who's well liked, a member of leadership. It's like, oh, well, you know what? If you give him a shot instead of McCarthy, first of all, McCarthy would have to step aside for that to happen. Second of all, if it were Scalise, would any of this dynamic change at all? I don't know. Crenshaw, no, 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 it would not change, and we all know it wouldn't change, which is why we can't give in. And so, those of us who are standing against this, we're standing for principle. They are standing, he's talking about the 20, for notoriety, which is weird because everybody's talking about Crenshaw calling people terrorists, so it sounds like he's getting notoriety. But anyway, they're standing for that extra news, sounds like Crenshaw, that because nobody ever cares about them and they're frustrated by that. Kind of sounding like Crenshaw too, because he's dropped in popularity. What was it? 3 years ago, Crenshaw was all the rage. I think he was even on Steven Crowder and such. Everybody was talking about him. But now, who was it? Alex Stein called him a what? Eye patch McCain, I think? Crenshaw goes on to say, you pushed us into a corner, so now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but McCarthy. That's what we're saying. Because we cannot let the terrorists win. That's basically what's happening. Now back to this Benson guy. When you're talking to some of these guys and you say that you're having these conversations, I know you're trying to do this in good faith. Doesn't sound like it. You're calling them terrorists. And you're trying to maintain some level of respect. Again, you called them terrorists. That's not respectful. You also just called them terrorists. Yeah. Like, I'm just trying to figure out. It feels like the animosity is getting, what's that? Visceral and personal, which might make it even harder to get out of this quagmire. Yeah. Because when you call people terrorists, that's right up there with calling people Nazis. How can you work with people who call you terrorists and Nazis? Now back to Crenshaw. Yeah, yes, sure is. I mean, it's obviously a figure of speech. Yeah, sure, you got caught on calling people terrorists and now you're backpedaling. But it's what is, I mean, damn, guy. You're holding a gun to our head. What do you want? You know, and I don't want to hear I've already been a what? Okay, he said that twice. Been attacked by them because I've used harsh language. And I'm like, you started this fight. Okay. If you don't want to get into the octagon and get punched in the face, don't get into the octagon. That's how I feel about it. I mean, this is because there's no good faith here. Again, Crenshaw called them terrorists, so that's just going to devolve things even more. Alright, back to the Crenshaw. He talks about good faith being lost. Then he talks about the 20 playing victim. And he's not going to apologize for harsh language. Then he says, you guys know me. That's how I am. I speak boldly. This is terrorism tactics. It is what it is, you know. I'm not the first one to use that term, by the way, you know. This is getting out of control. So, what I could tell from this interview here, this Crenshaw guy, he got a little flustered because he repeated himself quite a bit and he was sounding kind of emotional. So, kind of like AOC. So, in summary, these 20 people, hardliners, etc., they're labeled the enemy of the Republican Party because they don't want McCarthy. That's what I've been able to gather. So I guess they're called Trumpers or whatever, MAGA Republicans, I guess. So the rhinos are really ticked off. Anyway, that's it for my little ramble. Take care.